for joining us on this Monday, beautiful Monday actually, call for community solutions hosted by the Forbes Funds and GPNP. There was a lot of interest around our recent LinkedIn post about our special guest today, Emmai Alaquiva. He is newly appointed vice chair for the PA Council on the Arts. A lot of you, I'm pretty sure, are joining the call this morning as a way to wish congratulations. Feel free to do so via the chat and share your well wishes for with Emmai for this great accomplishment. For anybody who's new to the call and hasn't joined before and is really just here to see Emmai and hear from him a little bit, I want to do a little bit of housekeeping first. So the objectives of these calls are to share resources and opportunities with nonprofits, provide space for new community members to convene and drive conversation and connection. And oddly enough, these originated during the pandemic in March of 2020 as a way to do this. As emergency funding was becoming available, there were a lot of things that were really unknown about COVID-19, which today seems kind of like the flu, the way it's going around. And so there's been a lot of evolution in these calls since that time. And what we've landed on as we check in continuously with the folks who join us is kind of a call and response model where we have a survey that we'll launch at the end of the call, and we'll give an opportunity for you to talk about or share who you want to hear from and who's really transformative to the sector at this time. So today, speaking of transformative, Emmai will be joining us to talk a little bit about his new role as vice chair for the Pennsylvania Council of the Arts. But before we do that, I want to go through a little bit of his bio, just so folks who may not know him and are joining this call as a longtime Forbes Fund supporter, just have a little bit of he's gonna be mad at me for saying this, but like for really understanding what a big deal this is. Emmai is manufacturing the future of digital art across the multiverse of mindful media. The sky is not the limit, says Alaquiva, an Emmy award-winning mixed media artist, film director, and vice chair for the Pennsylvania Council on the Arts, recently appointed by Governor Josh Shapiro and Lieutenant Governor Austin Davis. Alaquiva is an August Wilson African American Center Build Artist in Residence for his national exhibit of photography, film, mixed media, and augmented reality called Optic Voices, Mama's Voice. For anybody who didn't have a chance to go see this at the August Wilson Center, Emmai actually reached out to Fred and the Forbes Funds team to give a in-person tour of the exhibit to make sure that we got a chance to interact with it in a way, as the artist intended, and to speak to what we see as emerging and consistent challenges of equity in Pittsburgh specifically, putting that on a national scale and seeing it through the lens of art. And to reach out and do that, I mean, that takes a different type of artist and partner in this work. So I just want to thank Emmai for taking that step with us and really inviting us into that space to see that exhibit. And finally, Alaquiva's achievements include his recent contribution to the creative team led by Jay-Z through the transformative book of HOV exhibit at the Brooklyn Public Library. He is also the director of The Ebony Canal, a feature documentary film on maternal health that examines the historic journey toward birthing a new wave and saving Black women and Black babies. As director of photography for the Fred Rogers Productions television series Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, I actually didn't know that until recently, Alaquiva is solidifying his contribution as an artist and social change maker as a 100 Modern Men of Distinction bestowed upon him by Black Enterprise magazine. So we're really excited to have Emmai here with us today. I want to challenge you all to think through this from the arts and culture perspective, from the lens that you bring from your own experiences and expertise, whether you're joining us from the nonprofit sector, for-profit sector, arts and culture supporter, or artist yourself. There's a lot that goes into building a thriving community, and one of the things that I really appreciate about Emmai and his commitment to this work is that he has a really unique gift of seeing the unseen and hearing the unheard and helping translate that into art that inspires others not only to witness that but to act. And so thanks for joining us today, Emmai. I will turn it over to you to open your presentation, and then we'll get a chance to chat for a little bit.
Absolutely. What's up, everybody? How you doing? So sorry for not having the most incredible background, but I'm sort of down into my basement studio, if you will. First of all, thank you ever so much, GPNP. You have all done such remarkable work throughout the years, and it does not go unnoticed. Your team there with Fred and the gang have just done remarkable work. So kudos to you, everyone. If you could, share the clap emoji for the great work that they are doing there. Um, Secondly, thank you so much for having me, for just allowing me to be able to just chat and talk about really the magnificent orbiting that nonprofits has done for me in my life. Um, for some, a lot of folks on here have heard my story, but there's some people that haven't heard my story. So I just want to sort of interweave it and tie it into kind of how nonprofits have really been effective in my life and beneficial. So, growing up in a town called Wilkinsburg, which is on the outskirts of Pittsburgh, um, it wasn't the greatest environment to grow up in. However, adversity, if you turn adversity and sort of manufacture the adversity into fuel, it could actually fuel the rest of your life and really, really be a positive asset. So, at the age of 13, I attempted to sell drugs, and that was unsuccessful. I tried to, sell drugs in a town called Homewood and got a gun stuck to my head in a Kentucky Fried Chicken parking lot. And at the age of 13, I was going through a lot as a young man, but I knew that my life wasn't going to stop there. And then that's when I fell in love with hip hop. When I fell in love with hip hop, with a group by the name of De La Soul, Pete Rock, CL Smooth, A Tribe Called Quest, Gang Starr, Leaders of the New School. It was a great time in hip hop. But, hip hop spoke to me in a way that nothing else spoke to me. But I started to reach out to programs that were going on in Wilkinsburg. And there was a place, a nonprofit program called Boys and Girls Club. And there was a Boys and Girls Club that was on Wallace Avenue. And, when I first went as a young man trying to sort of figure myself out, it was almost like a new world. And that was my first introduction to what nonprofits were and what nonprofits did to the community. Going throughout life, of course, there's certain adversity and things of that nature. And my sister was diagnosed with HIV/AIDS in the early 90s at a time that no one really knew about, HIV/AIDS and things of that nature. Um, and it was real taboo. And my sister used to get incredible services from a nonprofit that assisted, may God bless her soul. Her name was Sabira Bushra. And Bushra was the executive director of a nonprofit organization in East Liberty, in which helped my sister sort of deal with some of the mental health issues. She went through a deep depression and things of that nature. And there were a lot of support and wraparound services for her at a time where no one knew about this. And if it wasn't for Sabira Bushra, sort of understanding how to wrap around, young Black women. I mean, my sister was 22 when she was diagnosed. And even up to the time that she passed away, um, we really didn't have a lot of money to help her transition in a way. And Sabera Bushra and her organization put up the money for, funeral expenses, a wake, did something extremely valuable to our family. And that nonprofit proved to be incredible for my family. However, being able to see this in front of my face as a young Black man, I grew into deep depression because my sister was taking literally a bag of medicine the size of a giant eagle bag, and she had to take that every single day. So that proved to be a little rough on my mental state. So that rendered me homeless. I was in homeless or unhoused in the streets of Pittsburgh, sleeping under bridges, sleeping on benches, in parks, things of that nature. But if it wasn't for nonprofits like the Rainbow Kitchen, nonprofits like the Jubilee Kitchen, nonprofits like the YMCA, when it was on the Boulevard of the Allies, that's where I would take showers in order to sort of, feel some type of dignity. And this went on for a year and a half. Um, so after that, there was one point in time where I just had to call my mom and say, "Hey, mom, I've been homeless for a year and a half. Can I stay on your couch?" She said, "Sure, you definitely can." And that's when I started to put together, how can I get on my feet and then spend the rest of my life helping others get on their feet? So that's when I called a gentleman by the name of Justin Strong. Justin Strong had the Shadow Lounge in East Liberty at a time where no one really cared about East Liberty. And I asked him for a job. I started as a janitor, sweeping up cigarette butts outside, cleaning the toilets in the Shadow Lounge. And then I came up and developed my own dream to open my own recording studio. That's when I opened Your Mom's House in 2001. Then from there, I opened a nonprofit arts education program called Hip Hop Unlocked, which is an arts education program that uses the literary elements of hip hop in order to create change in my community. But it was two nonprofits that gave me my shot when I opened Hip Hop Unlocked. That was Hope Academy, and then that was the Union Project. Those two nonprofit organizations gave me an opportunity to put together a pilot program to help change the trajectory of some of these young people out here. And that was in 2001. Hip Hop Unlocked still goes on today, and we're in 12 school districts right now because of nonprofits. Um, then from that nonprofit of Hope Academy, WQED gave me the opportunity to put together music for a documentary called Tuskegee Airmen, Western Pennsylvania's Tuskegee Airmen. And little did I know that Pennsylvania had the largest concentration of Tuskegee Airmen out of any other state or region. So I did the music and ended up winning my first Emmy award. Shout out to Olga George. Shout out to George Miles, who gave me my opportunity. But it wasn't for nonprofits like WQED. I wouldn't have won my first Emmy and would not have gone on to win 3 more through that vessel. In 2020, with the demise of George Floyd, a lot of people didn't kind of know how to wrap around the Black Lives Matter movement. So I created a PSA for the deaf and hard of hearing community. No one in my family is deaf or hard of hearing, but I took an initiative upon myself to provide advocacy for deaf and hard of hearing people. Well, guess what? That PSA went on to be shown to over 300 million people worldwide, 60 countries, and my 8-year-old daughter was featured on Good Morning America on how to be an advocate and an ally, which a lot of nonprofits are. From that project, I ended up winning the August Wilson Built Residency, which is the inaugural first artist residency with the name of August Wilson tied to it. Then that's when I created Optic Voices. Optic Voices was the very first social justice augmented reality exhibit in the entire world. And Pittsburgh had it. And it was literally augmented reality in which I took photos of mothers throughout the world and who lost their sons to either gun violence or police brutality. And when you take your phone or your smart tablet, when you go over the photo of the mother, it changes to the face of the son. So it was in a remarkable way to humanize our young people and humanize people who are no longer with us. From there, I got a call to put together a documentary film called The Ebony Canal, which is about Black and brown infant mortality, that features Felicia Rashad. And in between all of this, I was appointed as just a member for the Pennsylvania Council on the Arts in 2018. But to be in 2024, to be promoted to vice chair of the Pennsylvania Council on the Arts under Governor Josh Shapiro is absolutely all because of the greater works of nonprofit organizations. Now, let me share a story with you. The strongest material, pound for pound, is spider silk. Follow me. Spider silk, pound for pound, is stronger than steel. Webs work when the silk connects. The spider would not be able to catch its prey if there are holes, or if there are or silk broken, and if it's not interweaved properly. What I'm telling you is that as nonprofit organizations in the region of Pittsburgh, we have to continue to build strong silk. Yes, we are the city of steel, but if silk, pound for pound, is stronger than steel, we could be the silk city. It takes nonprofits like you to come together, to connect, and not only look at each other from shore to shore, but if we're the city of bridges, we have to begin to cross them, to interweave, to catch the prey of opportunity, to catch the prey of positivity, to catch the prey of a better community, to catch the prey of a better city, for a better country, for a better world. But it starts with creating that silk. And as you sort of go throughout your day today for Monday or for the week, think about the silk that's in your life personally. Think about the silk that's in your life around your job, around your nonprofit. And let's begin to continue to connect that. And I just want to take this time to thank all the nonprofit organizations that have been silk in my life. And I'd like to thank all of you for listening to my little spiel on how nonprofit organizations have really got me to the vice chair of the Pennsylvania Council on the Arts. So I want to thank you all. And Emily, I want to thank you too. I'm ready for questions. Let's go.
Thank you. Well, so first, thank you for sharing your story because, I mean, central to it is also, I mean, not just the nonprofits, but your, I think there's like a TED talk on this, right? But like grittiness, your persistence, your perseverance, and especially with advocacy, that's something that I hear from nonprofits constantly, that you kind of hit a wall sometimes, like when you just feel so like isolated or defeated, or and as somebody who has continued like hitting back and coming up from that, what are some things that like you tell yourself to keep going when at those moments?
Yes. Well, here's the thing. Part of winning is losing. A lot of people might not understand it, but part of winning is losing, and learning how to navigate a loss. And if letters were, uh, if letters were, just a wire. If you bend an L long enough, you'll get a W out of it. You just got to bend it in a different way. You have to bend it. You have to find ways to calculate around that loss. But I tell you what, for me, I've learned how to process and manufacture, energy that might not necessarily be the most positive, but change it into something positive. When you've been through what I've been through, especially, being unhoused and things of that nature, knowing what the dirt tastes like, you never want to taste it again. And you never want individuals around you to taste it again. So it's always this sense of balancing life, controlling or sort of being aware of your mental health, One person told me, a mentor of mine told me that even Superman has to take his cape off. He just can't be flying 24 hours a day. It takes a lot out of you. So all you executive directors, all you founders, take time for yourself. We got to get ourselves together so that we can continue to run these nonprofit organizations in which hundreds, sometimes thousands of people have everything to do with how we're feeling and how we run the organization. But you have to moonwalk sometimes. In life, we have to moonwalk. Yes, that's going backwards, but if you do it well, it looks great, right? And I'm just using this analogy because it's artsy, it's dance. Remember, I'm an artistic cat. And when Michael Jackson moonwalked, we were all like flabbergasted. What the heck is he doing? It looked great. Again, some of you executive directors, some of you chairs and vice chairs, moonwalk. Go. It's okay to go back to check in on you like I checked in on me in order to keep balance. And that's really what's really allowed me to continue to fight, is finding that balance. You know, if it's editing with my dog right next to me, I have a golden doodle mini. His name is Chewy. He listens to Drake. He's vegan. You know what I'm saying? Little small things. And then my last point is, remember, and all of you on this call know this, the best way to move forward is to give back. That's what I do. When you see me post on social media, and I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, I post nothing but positive things to encourage you. And think of Facebook as a graffiti wall. You have to spray whatever's going on in your life, and you have to leave a tag. In my case, a hashtag. I use "It's God's Fault" all the time. You could trace my hashtag back to 2012. It's God's fault. You could trace back to 2012. That's how long I've been using. 11 years for one hashtag, because it's part of your legacy. And make sure you dance and you move like a break dancer. The way you coordinate in these meetings, in these networking events, when you go to these galas, when you go to these conferences, make sure you break dance well, because I'm still break dancing. Make sure you're an MC, just like a rapper, whether it's Will Smith or MC Light or LL Cool J. When you go into an interview for an organization, guess what you're doing? You're rapping. You're spitting bars. I use MC on how to save my life. And then the last thing is DJing. Find your melody, regardless of how many times people bump the turntable so that, you know, your music skips. Take the, wipe the dust off the needle, put it back on the DJ table, and let's get rocking. So that's how hip hop kind of saved my life, and that's how I use the metaphors of hip hop to save my life. So I know that was long winded, but I'm so sorry.
Don't apologize. I think when we send out like the write up or summary from this, I mean, those are the 3 bullet points. That's it.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
absolutely, for sure.
So I'm gonna go back to the silk metaphor, because I'm gonna follow you there, because you said follow me, I'm following.
Yes.
Um so in this region, when you're talking about like connections and ecosystems, there's this kind of juxtaposition, right, between like working together for advocacy and competing for funding. And this is like a real conversation with like, how do you build that web and strengthen that silk when you're coming together sometimes and then like not willing to work together? Like how do you bridge that, whether it's through no, like just how do you bridge that?
Well, I am glad you brought that up, because as a funder, and as a state funder that, helps to oversee 30 plus million in 67 counties throughout Pennsylvania, that happens a lot where it's almost like this, people are scared to tell others that they're going after a specific pot of funding because they're like, oh, well, if I tell you that I'm going to go after this Heinz grant or this Pittsburgh or this Richard King Mellon grant, you're going to try to, get in, and then maybe you'll get it instead of me. Here's the thing. Um, there's a lot of funding out there. I don't want people to be afraid that, like, oh, if I'm doing a little bit something similar to you, there's going to be an issue. There's a way that we all could work together. There's a reason why, this region has a large capacity of nonprofits, more so than any other region, is because we're doing good work, right? We're all doing good work. And it's a matter of, one example is in 2024, I am going to be building a full service media arts center for the region. And it's going to be a media arts center that, of course, serves young people, but it's also going to be a media arts center in which nonprofits receive a significant discount on whether they want to do a podcast, do photography for a photo studio, record voiceovers, um, do videos, nonprofit videos, and things of that nature as well. And there are centers that are similar, like the War Hall, like what Tim Smith is doing, but there are ways that we can sort of attack certain centers and concentrate on certain things that will get us to the very next level with everybody that's there. And I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna keep it real. I know I'm supposed to be, all ha ha. No, let me keep it real. If you go into Times Square, there's about 10 McDonald's in Times Square. What's going to separate where you go is based on how you treat the people. You have to treat the people like they are supposed to be treated. We have to not do crookbooks, but QuickBooks. There's a difference between QuickBooks and QuickBooks. Also, you have to understand that paperwork makes the paperwork. I'll say that again. Paperwork makes the paperwork. Nonprofit organizations, you have to have your paperwork on lock in order for you to get this paper to work for your organization. So, when we give out funding, you have to have your work sample solid. We can't take shortcuts on marketing materials, logos and your presentation. So when you have those things together, you're very secure at being able to work with others around you, regardless if you feel like you're competing with funding, because there's funding there. We just got to have our stuff together, so that when we do go into these competitive fields, you might see it as competitive, but it's not competitive. We just got to work together more and really build that silk. And my last point is that Hip Hop Unlocked works well with One Hood Media. One Hood Media, they do almost the same thing. Media, hip hop, music related. Why not come together and sort of do that? Because I'll tell you this case study. We did a project on One Hood Media that Jay-Z saw from Rock Nation. And due to working together with One Hood Media, got me a position to work on the Book of Hove for the Brooklyn Public Library, which is another nonprofit. So it just doesn't stop. And then from working on that project at Book of Hove, I got a call from the Smithsonian. So even from a local level to a national level, working together and not being afraid to go after the same funding is really going to help the region of Pittsburgh get to the next level.
Thank you. Also thank you for pronouncing that because I think I said Book of HOV when during the bio, so apologies
No,
for
no, no, no.
mispronouncing.
It's all good. The Book of Hove, which was Jay-Z's exhibit at the Brooklyn Public Library, and it got over 600,000 visitors in 3 months.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's really cool. And I wish, yeah. But so kind of following along that same line on the collaborative piece and you being a member since I think 2018 for Pennsylvania Council of the Arts.
Yes.
What does being vice chair then mean as like as a new opportunity as kind of like the next step for you in this evolution from nonprofit support to like what kind of relationship with nonprofits can you have in that position?
Absolutely. Definitely want to answer this. And also, anyone in the chat, please feel free to ask me any questions. I'm ready to answer these questions for you as well. And I appreciate you listening to my journey as well too. So, got a call from Governor Wolf in 2017. I met him a couple of times, and I had the ability to share my story with Governor Wolf. And he was fascinated by my story and the fact that the arts was able to save my life, and I was able to get through so many things with the arts. And then getting a call to become a member, just a member of the Pennsylvania Council on the Arts, um, it really, really allowed me to see kind of what happens on a grand scale from a statewide level on how the arts really has a lot to do with the economic vitality of a community, how well a community is doing, what a community is doing, what we need to do to change, the narrative for a lot of communities, a lot of cities, and a lot of counties. And it was, we sort of met, every so often, maybe, 3 to 4 times a year, where we decide on who gets funding, who doesn't get funding, and things of that nature. And then working, always passionate. Now, I'll be honest, I was not distracted, but in these meetings on a statewide level, I'm very much a disruptor because as an artist, I like things to change, and I like using the vessels of the arts in order to change things. And even in my late 40s, I'm still one of the youngest members on the council. So I wanted to shake things up a little bit, and people were open to that. And just over the years, I just kept swinging at that tree, swinging at the root to knock down old ideas, to knock down old ways and things of that nature. And over these years, I think the committee has found me to be disruptive on a positive end, to whereas they wanted to change a lot of things. One small thing is it was very tough to get an Instagram account, Emily. We just got an Instagram account, and the first thing we ever posted was the press release for the new appointed vice chair and chair. So it took a lot just to get an Instagram account, but it shows that they are willing to create silk of this. And then what I found out a couple months ago is that Josh Shapiro, he's a huge fan of my work. And he said, "Hey, listen, Emmai, we're putting together the dream team, and we want you and Susan to be a part of this dream team. Would you mind being the vice chair of the entire state of Pennsylvania when it comes to the Council on the Arts?" And I said, "Let's do it." Our executive director, Carl, Nora, and the rest of my team, it was just absolutely remarkable. So I said yes. So what that means is that I'm more focused. I'm more in line with the funding that we have to give out. I'm going to have to start visiting organizations. I'm going to have to start visiting even philanthropic huge institutes like Heinz, Pittsburgh Foundation, Beal Foundation, Poise Foundation, not only in Pittsburgh, but I'll have to travel to Erie. I'll have to travel to Harrisburg. I'll have to travel to Philadelphia, Johnstown, in all Allentown, Bethlehem, all of these places that are using arts. And I just want to say this, everybody who's on this call, this is a win for all of us. Yes, it might be me sort of on the turnpike going to Harrisburg for 3 hours, but this is a win for all of us because your governor picked a vice chair from Wilkinsburg, someone who grew up in Wilkinsburg, someone who was unhoused, someone who went through adversity, someone who went through tough times, but also someone who wants to focus on winning, focus on giving back, focus on our young people, and focus on how the art can change the trajectory of our community, period.
Thank you. I saw Jordan giving snaps too. Thanks, Jordan. And Fred, I know you're joining us or towards the tail end of the conversation, so you have a chance to sit with what Emmai has shared and respond to it. What are some things that are sticking with you?
Me or who?
Emmai,
Oh, my fault. What's up, Fred?
what's up, A? How you doing?
How you doing, man? I'm loving your blazer per usual. What you got, a turtleneck up under that joint?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Hey, thank you for being on our call and always for the camaraderie and friendship and partnership you provide to us. And for me, over the years, I don't even know how far we go back. I want to say,
We go back, man. Harambe, man.
yeah,
Harambe.
Harambe. Yeah. So I'm super pumped by you telling your story at this level and the governor's response to looking beyond race, ethnicity, and socioeconomic strata. I think you are a pillar of what change looks like. And there's a lot of private conversations we've had about not just the external, but the internal and the balance that I know you're dealing with, I'm dealing with. And I think it's important to share with people, at least from what I gather from you, is you're fed by helping other people also manage your own stuff. And it's an honor for you to be in a position to represent people who may be underrepresented or not represented at all. And that I think you're also aware that the risk that you take to create change has both positive and sometimes negative consequences. And can you share with us what it feels like to be in that balance all the time? Because you're in that balance all the time, right? And you've taken your career from something I think I want to do to something that's been recognized in Hollywood and back. And so coming from Wilkinsburg to Hollywood and back, the governor's office and back, just share with us like 3 or 4 critical things that you've ascertained that really ground you and keep you from your head exploding, but also in tune with the common needs of everyday people. And thank you, man. I love you. That's what
No. You already know. So let me just dive straight into it. I went from government cheese to government appointments. So I went from the projects to national projects. If I didn't go through sometimes, someone, I don't mess with that organization, or I don't deal with them. I don't like such and such who's ahead of such and such because I just don't like them. I don't know why. And I've seen it. I see it all the time where there's sort of these partition cliques, even in Pittsburgh. There are these partition cliques where we deal with these folks over here, and then you deal with those folks over there. It's almost like the rivers are somewhat of almost like a Bermuda Triangle, where people get trapped in these sections where no one from East Hills will ever be found in Mount Lebanon. There's some folks from Manchester that'll never get caught in Wilkinsburg or Norfolk Sales. But we have to combat that mentality, and we have to recalibrate our way of thinking to whereas we do have to interweave. And like I spoke about that silk earlier, we do have to make our silk much stronger. So when I deal with some of the adversities, like, you know, hey, Emmai, I want you to work on this project, but I don't want to interview such and such for this film or for this movie or da da da. And I have conversations with them, and I always try to extract the positive in the W out of each situation. And oftentimes, even as a funder, you know, on a statewide level now, I have to really create the silver lining between the possibilities of connecting versus disconnecting. And having to put that into play, I've used my own case studies where, you know, I would have to work with one organization and then another organization that would sort of be infighting, but finding the positivity out of both of them, and then sort of being neutral in both of their sort of quarrel. I'm a very neutral guy. I'm a photographer. I'm a cinematic poet. I am here to only tell stories. So I've been through that. I won't necessarily go too much deeper into those kerfuffles of issues, right? But I will say that working together is always a better decision than not working together. I always say, and I tell my daughter this, no one's perfect, but it's always a perfect decision to do better.
So you talked earlier about how you see art as a transforming vehicle or vessel to link a myriad of different challenges, at least across the state and the world, to really be powerful. Can you explain to us what are the powerful things you've seen art do and deliver that was unanticipated? And now that you have a sense of what it can do, can you share with us something that you are considering working on that you think might be transformative and or enlightening?
Yeah. So I'll use the case study of the Sean Carter Foundation. When Jay-Z and Rock Nation called me to put together a lot of the video elements for the book of Hove, there was one particular video that I focused on, and it was Jay-Z's work when it comes to prison reform, social justice. And when I worked on it, I went through so many countless hours of Jay-Z and his interviews, and I got literally hours of footage. It was to the point where I literally picked up on Jay-Z's nervous twitch. And Jay-Z's nervous twitch is that he'll swallow his spit mid-sentence. He'll go like, "Hey, what's up, Fred? How you doing today, man? So good to see you." So that's how much footage. And when I put together this reform and his work in social justice, Rock Nation loved the piece that I put together for them so much that they used it as the core vehicle for his gala, the Sean Carter Foundation Gala. And when they played this at the gala, I like to venture to say that even this artistic video that was only 5 minutes helped to raise $20 million for the Sean Carter Foundation. So you can't tell me art doesn't work. You can't tell me that Hip Hop on Lock, my nonprofit arts education program that's currently in schools system that uses hip hop as a tool to empower and enrich the lives of K through 12, where if we provide them with something to do through the vessel of the arts, you can't tell me that, you know, 35% are more likely to graduate from high school when students participate in the arts. And then my last point is that Optic Voices, helping mothers to heal, Fred, like to heal, to have Sabrina Fulton, the mother of Trayvon Martin, come to Pittsburgh and look at a picture of her son with a Mickey Mouse outfit on at the age of 2. She might cry, but that tear means something, that her son's name won't dissolve into the atmosphere. And my last point is that Leslie McSpadden, the mother of Mike Brown, said that when you heal, when you first get the scar, you get all the scarring. And then as it starts to heal, it starts to itch. And you start to scratch. But even though it hurts and it's irritating, it's the process of healing. So that's the work that I do as an artist, is to crystallize the human spirit through cinematic and purposeful storytelling, with the whole entire goal to heal. And I am definitely proud to be able to do that on a statewide level under Governor Shapiro.
My last question, Emily, if it's okay to ask, can I have one more question?
Let me look to see if Jocelyn has joined us yet. Yes, Jocelyn has joined. Would you mind putting it in the chat, Fred? Or
Yeah.
email? Actually, how about this?
No,
Okay.
I got you. I got you.
How about we keep it to like 2 minutes? Does that work?
Yeah.
My only question
Okay.
is, can you share with us how you're building the bench? Because you are a unique entity in the sector. You're not over commercialized. You stand in the middle. You serve them, you're bringing disparate people together who historically don't work together. How are you building the bench to produce people to think, function, and act like you, but are uniquely them, but use your pathway as a way for human transformation?
I appreciate that question, and I'll just do a shameless plug, Fred. And I'll be calling you and a lot of nonprofits, is that I want to build a media arts center for young people in a predominantly low economic area, in order to create programs, workshops, after school programs, leadership programs for corporations and things of that nature, in order to give back and to start to build on my legacy. And my last point at answering this question, and I want everybody on this call to recognize, is the stones that people throw at you are the same stones that you could build your castle out of. And I want you to take that with you this Monday. I want you to take that with you in everything that you do. Stones that people throw at you, use those same stones to build your castle.
Thank you.
My brother. I appreciate that. Thank you, Emily.
Of course. Thank you for joining us today. In doing a write-up on this, I'm honestly not sure what to use as the title, because you had so many great metaphors and plugs in there, so I might send it to you in advance. But I can't say enough how much we appreciate you as a partner and the work that you do. Nationally, and now as a government appointee. So congratulations again.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Emily.
Of course. And Jocelyn, the last few minutes of the call are yours. So we invited Jocelyn Malik from Hines School at CMU. They have a couple of master's level students to be placed at various nonprofits in this region, available for remote work. And to tell you a little bit more about that, Jocelyn, the floor is yours, because this is a really cool opportunity that I plan to take advantage of.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Emmai, how are you? Good to see you.
What's going on? How you doing? So good to see you.
You too.
Yes.
I was so happy to see you on this call. Oh my gosh.
Listen, I'm it's a pleasure to be on this call and to speak with so many great individuals.
I believe it. I believe it. Well, thank you all so much. And Emily, thank you so much for the opportunity to share a little bit about this project, the temporary project work opportunity that's available for nonprofit organizations. I'm Associate Director of Employer Relations at Hines College, one of the 7 colleges at Carnegie Mellon University. Our students are master's level information systems and public policy students. And we have a small group of students who just graduated this past December, because our information systems program is 16 months and they graduate in December. those students are still seeking work opportunities and hoping to be able to stay in the US to do their work. And while they are going through that process of job seeking, they are available to do temporary database and analytics-based projects for nonprofit organizations. If you are interested, we have a very simple, I'm talking, it'll take 2-3 minutes, survey that you can fill out with your project description. If you are interested in looking at bringing on some of these students on a temporary basis. And when I say temporary, we're talking a month, maybe a few weeks. And this would be for the kinds of projects that if you as a nonprofit organization think to yourself, boy, wouldn't it be great if we could analyze ... whatever that ... is. These students are super smart and have tremendous technical aptitude and can work on these projects for you on a temporary basis while they continue their job seeking and in between that period of between now and finding their full-time positions. This is a very unique opportunity, and we have information Emily can send to you that is a really thorough description of the project, who the students are, what program they come from, what skill sets they have, and then the simple 1, 2, 3 step process to register and not register, but submit your projects for consideration. We're hoping to receive projects as soon as possible. The survey is in the chat. Emily just put that in the chat. Thank you so much. And then she can send you the email that has the information. There is also a project deadline. Ideally, we're hoping to receive projects by the end of this week. We can certainly receive projects after that. Once you submit your analytics or database project, whatever that may be, you can, we will get in touch with you. We'll review it and approve it. And then we send you a packet of student resumes. You review those, and then you can reach out directly to the students and bring them on for your projects. And depending on, what fits. Couple things to keep in mind that are super important. The projects must require 20 hours a week of work in order for the students to be eligible. You don't need to worry about Department of Labor regulations. The students do all of that stuff. But 20 hours a week minimum. It needs to be database related work. So it has to be related to their field of study, which is information systems and database. And the work needs to be, it cannot be something that you would typically pay someone full-time to do. They can't be doing what someone who would be an on-staff paid fully benefited employee would do. This is a special project. Work that you kind of wish you could tackle and had a smart student to tackle. So now you have the opportunity to do that. And so that's pretty much anything that I'm omitting, Emily, that you
I
can
think that was it. A lot of the questions that we had during the info session last Thursday were about like what is an eligible project, and having a clear line of like if this is something that's kind of been like sitting on the desk of somebody who's otherwise a nonprofit employee, a stipend for this position is important. But if this is like, like for my example, with our advocacy cohort, we have a 170 row spreadsheet of CDCs and 501c4s, going through that data and doing a very specific one-time project for a couple of weeks and seeing, what we can share from that information would be a really good opportunity versus like managing public policy calls. So just making sure that there's, a clear line of, making sure that if this is a stipend need, that's like a work equivalent of an employee versus time limited project as it's intended to be.
Yeah, and like Emily said, so a good example would be, and like we said, it needs to be skilled work and it needs to be related to database and analytics, which is what their area of study was. So an example would be humane animal rescue, for example. couldn't bring on a student to walk dogs or take care of pets, but what they could do is have that student do an analysis of their intake database software to make some changes so that it's more productive and more efficient, or that it generates a dashboard report that is really effective for senior leadership to take a look at. Like, if that kind of thing, as I explained it, resonates with you, or you think that that's something that your organization could use, that's what these students are amazing at. So.
Thank you so much, Jocelyn. If anybody has any questions, what is your email? Would you mind putting that in the chat? And I put the 2 slide decks that you had shared and the intake survey there as well for anybody to see. We are at 11 o'clock. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone, this morning. Thanks to the folks who filled out the survey. We'll check that out before next week. Our next call is Monday, March 4th at 10 a.m. Oh, I see your email. Thank you so much, Jocelyn. And I look forward to seeing everyone then. Have a great rest of your week, and I'll talk to you soon.